The Simple Handicap for Thursday, December 12th. Thank you for making me a part of your morning. Week 15 officially upon us. These next 3 weeks going to go very quickly with games spread out. We get going tonight. It's going to be a busy week number 15, and it starts tonight with a great one. LA Rams on the road at the San Francisco 49ers. This game up to San Francisco -3 after being as low as -1.5 earlier in the week. All 49ers money the last 48 hours. Total from 49.5 down to 48 with under money coming in as we get closer to kickoff. News for the 49ers, chance of both Bosa and Greenlaw being back on the defensive side of the field. Prop bettors still in limbo, waiting to see what the status of Isaac Guerendo is going to be. Looks like a true game time decision. We'll probably get news of that a little bit later this afternoon, about 90 minutes before kickoff when the inactives hit. But certainly going to see a lot of prop movement on that. And based on his status, likely to see a lot of in-play props come into question as well. Let's move on to Sunday, where the Washington Commanders are on the road at the New Orleans Saints. Washington, a 7.5-point favorite this morning after they took pro money yesterday. 7 -15 and 7 -20 wiped out across the board, pushed up now to 7.5 this morning. Total still holding steady at 43.5 yesterday at practice. Out of the bye, Marshawn Lattimore, a full participant for the first time since joining the Washington Commanders a few weeks ago. All signs point to him being back on the field to bolster this secondary against the New Orleans Saints offense. So that's going to be a lot of familiarity and a big boost to this Commanders defense. Washington back to 7.5. Disagreement in this game over the week. 7.5 was taken out earlier. Sitting there at 7.5 with the last move so far, latest in the week in this game. Miami on the road at the Houston Texans. Houston 2.5 -20 at Circa and Chris this morning. 3 even money at Buckeye. We're seeing FanDuel 2.5 -20. Caesars 3 -105. The high price on the board matching Jazz, the offshore sportsbook. Back and forth on this game as it is sitting on 3. Raheem Mostert limited in practice for the Miami Dolphins. Really the only noteworthy name from either side that it has a dramatic injury impact. Total holding steady at 47 left to right across the screen. New York Jets on the road at the Jacksonville Jags. Still a soft 3 for the Jets. We haven't seen much movement here in the last couple of days. Total still holding steady at 40.5. Breece Hall's status very much in doubt for the New York Jets in this matchup. Cincinnati on the road at the Tennessee Titans. Brian Callahan against his old team. Great article posted on The Athletic about just how close both Zach Taylor and Brian Callahan have remained since he left Cincinnati. Lots of texting back and forth, lots of communication still after every game. These two guys go back and forth a ton. There's also a relationship with Pitcher, the new offensive coordinator in Cincinnati this year. A ton of crossover between the coaching staffs in this game. Cincinnati holding steady as a 5-point favorite. Total holding steady at 46.5. Tony Pollard, a DNP for the Tennessee Titans. Joe Burrow, limited in practice with a wrist injury, but that is very much more a rest day than anything to worry about from a betting perspective. I'm going to be intrigued to see if there is any appetite at all out there in the market for the underdog. The Cincinnati Bengals have been a popular side so far, but with this familiarity and how it's being presented, kind of a unusual dynamic where there's still a lot of connection weekly between coaching staffs. Pretty insightful article that came out on The Athletic if you guys want to go over and check that out. Baltimore on the road at the New York Giants. This is going to be a Tommy DeVito game against a Baltimore Ravens defense coming in off of the bye. Yikes. It's getting ugly for the New York Giants, and Drew Lock is in a walking boot. The severity of the injury is unknown, but it was severe enough to name DeVito the starter. As soon as that news hit the board, this went from 15 up to 17. At that point, there was some resistance. This came back down to 16.5. The Baltimore Ravens do have the short week, hosting the Pittsburgh Steelers in a revenge spot on Saturday night. So there is that look-ahead element that exists here. 17 was the point of resistance. Waiting to keep an eye on Lamar rushing props. A couple books have opened in the low 40s. Certainly a number to keep your eye on. Another thing that came out about this game yesterday was Malik Neighbors on the field, obviously dealing with multiple injuries, but some of the video footage of him standing around after routes and the disgust that he had with this offense, I don't want to put him in the squeaky wheel narrative. I think it's just another sign that there's some serious issues beyond the obvious ones that go a lot deeper in this Giants locker room And now they're dealing with multiple offensive linemen down with DeVito starting. This could be ugly for New York on Sunday. Kansas City on the road at the Cleveland Browns. Chiefs 4-point favorites across the board. Total comes down. After getting up to 46, this is now back to 44. The amount of back and forth that we are seeing on sides and totals this week is significant. And this is a move on the under. Comes as Greg Newsome for the Cleveland Browns dealing with an injury, one of their better players in the secondary. We're also seeing the Kansas City Chiefs have Hollywood Brown, not Antonio Brown. That would be a pretty crazy story to get into. But Hollywood Brown is back around the practice facilities. Same thing with Harrison Butker. He has not practiced nor played since November 10th, but he is back as a limited participant. DJ Humphries did not practice with the hamstring injury suffered late in the game. Juwan Taylor, limited participant as well. So the Chiefs' revolving door of tackle issues continues into this week against this Browns pass rush. Dallas on the road at the Carolina Panthers, 2.5 -20. The consensus price across the board this morning, total from 43 up to as high as 43.5, but shaded heavily under at a lot of the books that matter, with even a 42.5 showing at Circa Sports. Jalen Coker set to play in this game. It's a big boost in the fantasy world for some, as he has been a guy that has been circled in a lot of the sharper fantasy websites. Curious to see if his prop price has any impact on what this game might do, or what his input is going to be in this offense. Again, it's just one of those names that you see mentioned a lot that comes up, and whether or not his price is fully caught up to, we'll have to see what that looks like. But the Panthers still holding steady at 2.5 with some books shaded towards the 3. It's been all Carolina money since the reopen in this game. Pittsburgh on the road at the Philadelphia Eagles. Eagles back to 5 this morning. Talk about the back and forth. Here's another one. This has been 5.5 to 4, 4.5, and back and forth all throughout the week. Total from 45 down to 42, and shaded slightly lower at a couple of spots in this matchup. Buffalo on the road at the Detroit Lions. Good news across the board for the Buffalo Bills. Keon Coleman, full participant in practice. Amari Cooper, full participant in practice. Curtis Samuel, full participant in practice. Dalton Kincaid, full participant in practice. Matt Milano, full participant in practice. This is the first time in a long time that the Bills have had all of these guys on the offensive side healthy and practicing in full this early in the week. Big change in how they are approaching this game, to say the least, compared to last week, where there was a little bit of tentative nature shown. Nothing tentative about how they seem to be approaching this game going into Detroit, with all of these guys participating in full on Wednesday, dealing with nagging injuries. Seems like a Bills team that is fully bought in. Now, I say that as I look at the Detroit Lions injury front. Taylor Decker back at left tackle, full participant. Aleem McNeil dealing with the concussion in the jaw, full participant. So they're certainly getting starters back too. Ant, who scouts for the Buffalo Bills, who is one of my favorite follows, and he has a great podcast, has broken this game down to an exceptional level. And I would encourage anybody who wants to look at some of the threads he has to jump over and see those breakdowns, whether it's on Twitter, whether it's over on the Blue Sky. He's on both platforms. He has the podcast on YouTube too. Brilliant breakdown of what's to come in this matchup, which is going to be awesome to watch on Sunday. Again, as we talk about back and forths, this is now 2.5 -15 at Circa, 2 -15 at Chris, 2 -10 at Buckeye. Everywhere else across the board in between, BetOnline 1.5 -125. Everywhere is just back and forth on every game all week. Indianapolis on the road at the Denver Broncos. 3.5 showing for the Broncos at FanDuel, 3.5 showing at BetOnline, 3.5 showing at Pinnacle. Chris, Circa, and Buckeye still a flat 4 this morning, with the total holding steady at 44 in this game. Josh Downs back at practice for the Colts. Michael Pittman, full participant off of a much-needed bye for his back injury. Ryan Kelly, the center, a key and vital piece to the offensive line, returns to practice in a limited basis. Curious to see what his availability is later today. That's all big news for the Indianapolis Colts in this matchup. Took pro money earlier in the week. This is a game where the Broncos are a very, very popular side, but the Colts number is holding down. Tampa Bay on the road at the LA Chargers. This came off of the 3 yesterday on the news that Justin Herbert not only has a new ankle injury, but is also dealing with a leg contusion and knee swelling. It was implied that he is going to be able to play in this game, but he was not present at practice yesterday, and it was Easton Stick and Taylor Heineke splitting first-team reps. For a Chargers offense that got back Ladd McConkey in practice, running in pads and participating, unlike what he was doing last week, but is going to likely be without Will Dissly, and obviously still does not have J.K. Dobbins. It's not like they've been an overly explosive offense the last couple of weeks, and you take Herbert out of practice, all of a sudden you start to wonder what impact that could have on the prep and getting things right in this offense, even with some guys in and out of the lineup the last couple of weeks. And so if this injury persists and we see him not participating today, I worry less about his availability on Sunday at the moment as I do the Chargers just prepping and getting to a spot where their offense can be set up to exploit the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who will be without their best player in the secondary for this matchup in Winfield. New England on the road at the Arizona Cardinals. We want to talk about back and forth. Look no further than this game. We are back to 6.5 for the Arizona Cardinals this morning at FanDuel as they took a wave of money yesterday. So think about this. This game reopened 6.5, got as low as 4.5. We're back to 6.5. I mean, the full moves are being bought out. Latest move so far in the week has been towards the Arizona Cardinals. We've also seen over money come back into the market. This game up to 46, and it's shaded slightly higher. Arizona's certainly going to have an advantage on the ground against this Pats defense, and New England has been viewed as certainly an over team with Drake May taking over. He gets a bit of a step down in class in terms of the opposing defense that he is facing with this Pats team. Green Bay on the road at the Seattle Seahawks. 2.5 minus 122 at Chris, minus 125 at Circa, 3 even money at Buckeye. Another back and forth as Seattle showed money yesterday at +3. Obviously, money from us earlier in the week at 2.5 pushes it up. It's a back and forth almost everywhere across the board. We see this total back to 46. Did a big breakdown on the weather yesterday. Talked about the wind, talked about the rain. Models have kind of all come to a consensus now, and the wind has moved back. Does not look like it is going to be as much of a factor, but the Kevin Roth report came out. We're seeing other models today suggest that there could be a chance of rain now, but that wind has subsided. So this is going to be what looks like a typical mid-December Seattle Seahawks game at home on Sunday at Lumen Field. Monday doubleheader, it's the Minnesota Vikings holding steady as a 7-point favorite across the board. Total holding steady at 43.5. And then it's the Atlanta Falcons at 4, left to right across the screen with a total of 44. Las Vegas, still unclear about the status of Aidan O'Connell. Yesterday, Antonio Pierce said it is up in the air for his status on Monday Night Football. I do think there is about a point difference that we are going to see between O'Connell starting and the potential for Desmond Ridder starting, which will be between probably a juice 3.5 and 4.5 on the other side. Had a big breakdown in the live stream preview that is up on the podcast feed as well as here on the YouTube channel. If you've made it this far and you're watching on YouTube, we're pushing for 11,000 subscribers by the end of the season. We're about 400 short. I see a lot of comments, and I love the comments coming in, but a lot of people commenting are not subscribed to the channel. It's free to subscribe to the channel. The only thing you're going to get is notifications for when more videos go live. If you have a second this morning and you'd like to do that, would appreciate it very much. If you're on Apple or Spotify, would love it if you take a second to leave a review of the podcast. If you have an extra second as well to leave a comment, helps me out a ton, helps the channel. And if you're enjoying the content and the podcast every morning, would be great if you can take a second and help things boost up a little bit higher in the ratings and on the charts. Appreciate everybody for stopping by. Have a fantastic Thursday, everybody. Enjoy the game tonight, and we'll chat with you again to wrap up the week tomorrow morning.